Imagine a caveman sitting in his cave in caveman times, wrapping up warm, trying to get as warm as he can. It's freezing outside. He's just tried to hunt his dinner, and someone's just chucked in front of him a laptop. He's rubbing the dust out of his eyes, wondering what the heck this thing is. Someone fires up your website. It's the first website, it's the first laptop he's ever seen. Someone fires up your homepage. And could that caveman, within a few seconds of landing on your homepage, grunt exactly what you do, how it helps him, why you, and then easily learn more?
Welcome back to the Sales Gravy Podcast. I'm Jeb Blount Jr., and today we have one of my favorite podcasters and really great influencers in the B2B marketing and development space for both tech companies and companies all over the world. And I'm really excited for this conversation. So if you're a business owner or you work in tech or you work in marketing as well and you listen to the Sales Gravy Podcast, this is going to be a great podcast for you. Before we get going, I want to announce Sales Gravy Live. Sales Gravy Live is coming up in 2025. We're going to be hosting live sales training events by Sales Gravy through our Sales Gravy Master Trainers. Our first 3 events are going to be in Atlanta. If you or your team are interested in getting real tactical and actionable training with your team in 2025, go to salesgravy.com/live. That's salesgravy.com/live. And we look forward to seeing you there. Today, as I mentioned, we have one of my favorite people on the internet, Mr. Sam Dunning. Sam, how are you, sir?
Hey, Jeb, appreciate having me on, man. Looking forward to the chat.
I am as well. And I want to start off with a little bit of background of you. I know that we have been on the podcast, on your podcast before. This is not a typical sales podcast because you are a salesperson, but you don't train salespeople. You don't necessarily work with a sales team, but you help sales in a very particular and targeted way. So kind of give a little bit of background of breaking B2B. What is it that you do for organizations that you work for?
Yeah. There's 3 main problems or frustrations that we tend to solve. Like you said just now, these days we usually work with B2B tech, SaaS or service companies, and usually they're either struggling or a bit annoyed that every time target clients search for what they do or problems they fix or compare them to alternative solutions, prospects keep seeing competitors above them in organic search results, so
Yeah.
stealing potential traffic, opportunities, or leads. Or perhaps they already invest a bit of cash into paid ads, paid media, other channels to drive folks to the website, but it feels like the website's just failing to convert all that hard-earned traffic into a steady stream of maybe leads or demos or whatever that conversion point is. Or maybe they are working with an agency already, but perhaps just not getting the desired outcome that they're hoping for. So we fix that with a bit of an unusual approach to SEO, content marketing, and websites.
I think that this is a really interesting conversation for the leaders and business owners in the Sales Gravy podcast audience. First and foremost, because yeah, you work in tech, but this is applicable to small business. This is applicable to medium-sized business and enterprise as well. Search engine
Yep.
optimization is everyone in business should know SEO, but most people talk SEO but don't actually understand it. There's a trend going around now, and I want to challenge you a bit. We have AI. We've been living with AI for,
Mm.
I think, in full for about a year, maybe a year and a half. It's been around for several years, and searching is becoming much less about getting to the top of the page, but more so that AI picks you up and puts you in that little blurb when you search a topic. Hey, I'm looking for the best sales training company. Who are those? And ChatGPT or whatever it is will pull in a list. How are you tackling AI search optimization? I don't know if there's a term for this.
Yeah. Some call it AI optimization or AIO, or there's a bunch of other jargon and keywords all around it. But I suppose I'd take a step back. Like there is a ton of folks saying SEO's dead, AI is taking over everything. But I would take a step back before I even do that, because there is a ton of people moving into AI to search for more basic things, whether that is ChatGPT, Claude, SearchGPT, or whatever tool they're using, Perplexity, it doesn't matter. But I take a step back and say, is your dream client, is your ICP actually quite tech savvy? Because for more traditional industries, that might not even be relevant. Like those folks are probably still using Google first if they've got queries, if they're looking for vendors or searching for problems. If you've got more of a tech savvy user, which in my case, and selling to SaaS, selling to tech, etc., they probably are. But the other thing to consider is that before you start claiming things like SEO is dead and all that, Google still dominates the market share by a boatload. Now, GPT searches still are on the rise, and it is something that's worth ranking for. And like you said, Google recently introduced something called AI overviews. So they've got a bit of a, they used to have something, well, they've got something called a featured snippet, but they've also got a result above the fold, even before the paid ads, where you can get a little listing there. And is there a proven way to rank in it? Some folks claim there is. That, from my experience, it's not 100% broken down yet, but a lot of it folds upon best practices. So there's a framework Google rolled out a while back called EEAT, Experience, Expertise, Authority, Trust, that should be woven into all
Mm.
the pages of content that you build out. It claims some of the guidelines that I've seen around ranking well on AI searches are making sure your content's easy to digest, making sure your headlines are clear, making sure you're doing those content best practices, but also looking to get brand mentions or build what's called backlinks. So other websites linking to your site from trustworthy, niche, relevant sites. So stuff that's super relevant to your topic, your industry, and such. And also, it looks like embedding rich media. So whether that's relevant YouTube videos and that kind of stuff on the pages you're building out tends to help. A lot of it is just general SEO best practice that seems to then translate well to ranking well for search terms in AI overviews or GPT searches from what we've seen so far, but it's still quite early days.
So then SEO best practices. Dive into some of the fundamentals that if you were working with somebody and they were kind of starting out from scratch, what do you need to understand in order to be moderately successful in that space?
Yeah, in SEO. So first and foremost, you've got to decide if SEO is actually worth your time, resource, investment, or if you're going to pay a contractor, if you're not going to do it in house. And that usually depends on, are we in an industry that's known? Are we in a category that's reasonably mature? Um, and most of us are selling products, services, or offerings in a category that people know exists. Therefore, Google is always best placed as a demand capture channel to capture those folks that are in market actively seeking out what you do. If you're in something, a new category that's perhaps not that well known, SEO is probably not the best play. There's other channels that your target clients might be on that are probably better worth your time. So let's pretend we are in a market where folks are searching for what we do. The simplest way of distilling SEO, because this could be an hour long episode in itself, but the simplest way is working out exactly what target prospects are most likely to search for when they need our offer already, when they're ready to speak to a salesperson now. And breaking this down into simple terms, one of the easiest exercises that I do, and I did this with my own site when I launched Breaking B2B, and I'd recommend this to other folks, is fire up a simple Google sheet or Excel sheet or something like that. Make a few columns like, one, what is the main offer or offers or services that we actually want to be selling?
Mm.
Column two, what are the industries or the niches that we serve best that historically have bought well, have the bleeding neck problem that we solve, actually have the cash to invest in our offer. We're not going to struggle to sell to them, and they believe it's a useful offer to them. So those industries that are basically willing to buy our offer. Make a column of the main competitors that we go against, and also make a column of the main problems that we solve, or our prospects' jobs to be done. What are their struggling moments? What do they try and cobble together in house until they get to a tipping point? They're so frustrated they seek out an offer like ours. And the whole point of that exercise is so we can clearly make a note of like, what are the main services or offers or solutions or softwares we want to be selling? Who are the industries we serve best? What are competitors in the market, and what are their kind of jobs to be done or struggling moments? Because this will help us with like stage one, keyword rather research. Keyword research. What are those prospects going to search for when they need our offer? And then you tie them together into what's called long tail keywords. So, as an example, you're probably familiar with calendar scheduling software like Calendly or HubSpot meetings, or that, or Chili Piper or Revenue Hero. They're all competitors. So if I was in that space, my primary offer might be calendar scheduling software, calendar booking tools, calendar scheduling platforms, that kind of stuff. That might be primary offers. But those kind of keywords are going to be super hard to rank for because there's so many competitors, and you've got industries in the space like Chili Piper and Calendly that have been at it years and got so much authority. It's going to be really hard to outrank. So that's where you go more niche and specific in your keyword and your long tail keyword. So you might consider something like best calendar tool for sales teams, or best calendar scheduling for HR teams, or recruitment, or whatever your niches are, and getting into that. And that's stage one, working out your money keywords, your commercial keywords. What is a prospect likely to search when they need our offer? Then you run those through SEO tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush to see if they've got a little bit of keyword volume. And then once you've built those out, you plan up your content. There's a lot to go into, but happy to dive into that deeper as you wish.
Well, I want to maybe take it the next step. So someone
Mm.
you get long tail keywords, or you find the niche, or you get ranked well. And someone finds you and they click on the link and they get to your page, or they get to what your offer is. Okay, so you sent me a note last night that you like to talk about on podcasts, that your website is the best salesperson you have. Your
Mhm.
webpage is the best salesperson you have. Okay, so they get to your page. What should a prospect see? What should they be looking at in order to help convert them into an opportunity?
Yeah, yeah. So if we talk about the homepage on a high level, I often say, like you said, your website can quite literally be your best, but it can also be your worst salesperson. Because think about it, it's live 24/7. And depending on your marketing engine, you might be sending tons of traffic to it from ads, email, webinars, maybe referral traffic from folks hearing about you on outbound sales, or email, cold email, whatever. So it can either be working around the clock to build trust, build reputation, drive inbounds, or it can do the opposite. It can tarnish trust, repel folks, and do all that stuff. So when it comes to your homepage, there's a really good test coined by a chap called Donald Miller, great book called Building a Story Brand. The test is called a grunt test.
Mm.
And what that means is, imagine a caveman sitting in his cave in caveman times, wrapping up warm, trying to get as warm as he can. It's freezing outside. He's just tried to hunt his dinner, and someone's just chucked in front of him a laptop. He's rubbing the dust out of his eyes, wondering what the heck this thing is. Someone fires up your website. It's the first website, it's the first laptop he's ever seen. Someone fires up your homepage. And could that caveman, within a few seconds of landing on your homepage, grunt exactly what you do, how it helps him, why you, and then easily learn more? So within a few seconds, could he grunt those things? What you do, how it helps them, why he should consider you, and how to learn more. And most B2B websites don't hit that mark. You land on, especially in tech and SaaS, you land on their homepage and it says stuff like the all-in-one revenue platform to turbocharge revenues and grow your sales pipeline. And that's even a good example. Like, some are worse than that. You land on that hero area or that banner area at the top, and it's like, this is a lot of jargon and buzzwords. I have literally no idea what you do. Um, Another statement from that chap is, if you confuse, you lose. And it couldn't be more relevant with websites. Like, the amount of websites that are unclear on their messaging, the problems they solve, the jobs they help you get done, and the value you bring to the table is just astounding. Often gets tarnished by investors, exec teams, etc. Everyone want to sprinkle their own ideas into the pot. So being able to be crystal clear as soon as someone lands on your homepage, like what you do, how it helps them, why
So
they should consider you, and how to take that next step.
this is a concept that's it's prevalent in everything. So like sales professionals as well. So if you're still listening to this podcast as an individual contributor, you do this with email. Like when you see a prospecting email from somebody and it's 4 paragraphs long explaining what they do, and it's a bunch of word salad. And I do this when I build websites. I did it this morning. I got a note from our CEO, Jeb Senior, and said this was crap, and it was just a bunch of nothing. And it was. I wrote a bunch of nothing, and I think what the challenge is that human beings, I think it's called Friedrich's law, have this lovely ability to take something simple and make it very complex for no reason at
Mm,
all. And what you're describing is okay, and what Donald Miller is describing is, look, can a caveman grunt this? Is it easy to consume? If you can, is it not? Is it non-confusing? You land on the page and everything works. What are some ways, and you do this? I know that this is your business. How do you help someone become simple from complex, or how do you go about distilling maybe a complex service or maybe a non-complex service, but making it sound very simple and easy to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The crux of great websites are built on the backbone of good customer research. And you, as a sales organization, will know this better than anyone because marketers are awful. A lot of marketers are scared stiff to talk to prospects or customers or get on sales calls. But us, me being a founder, so being on the cold hard front of sales calls, just like yourselves, we're speaking to prospects, having sales convos daily. So if you can do that, then you start to understand your prospects' world and you understand like the top three expensive problems they're facing, the impact of not fixing them, why they want to get it done, their goals, their aspirations, their motivations. And that can be really useful, especially when you're putting together things like homepage headlines. So I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and theirs was, I won't go into the industry, but it was something like turbocharge this and win this. And I was like, well, as a layman, I'm not in your industry, granted, but I've seen your homepage headline, and I have no idea what you do. Would your prospects actually use this language in day to day? And they said no. And I said, well, change it. If they're not saying this stuff on sales calls or customer success calls, why the hell are you using it? So that's why getting into sales calls, CS calls, and similar can be so useful because you can understand the internal jargon prospects use, what they care about, and those frustrations, and then leverage that. For example, in your homepage headline, a simple homepage headline is like, we do X that improves Y. Like, we do, I don't know, we build websites that generate leads, or
I
we
love
provide
that.
sales training to grow your revenue. I mean, it's simple, it's not the best, but it's clear. Um, another framework I like to use is picking an enemy, everything you stand against. So in my case, I basically hate the thought of agencies doing SEO for vanity metrics, like going after traffic that will never convert into leads, or sharing awesome rankings for keywords that will never drive relevant in high intent sales ready traffic. So our headline is quite literally B2B SEO for revenue, not vanity.
Yeah.
So that's another framework. It's basically leveraging all these insights from customer calls and then weaving that into your messaging.
That's what's interesting is it makes so much sense. It's such a blinding flash of the obvious. We, and myself included, are we try and pretty up, the language so much. We think that if we just write the best sentence that anyone's ever read, that they'll fall in love with the work that we do, and of course they'll want to work with us. But what ends up happening is we have these, fluffy little sentences that, sales training, for example, will help your team understand your customers better, is not that's not a great tagline. What we do is we help you build pipeline, we help you advance the pipeline, we help you close the pipeline. Period. And that's, that's very simple to put in play. But when you start building out content for the web page, like the hero banners, that's maybe even easier to think about. But then you have these paragraphs inside of your website. So how do you go about distilling maybe the ideas into longer form? I know that's a longer process because people have
Yeah,
input.
yeah.
They want to make it sound good. They want to make it, it makes them feel good. And especially in a business, you and I probably both, we spend so much time in our business that we understand it intrinsically, where we stop thinking about the prospect and what they're saying, and if they were a caveman and they came to our site and they grunt this, we forget that. So how do you go about maybe the longer form content on a web page?
Yeah, so I suppose in simple terms, if we think about a website split up into, typically, if we dive into the inner pages of a website, you usually have landing pages. So if we give your website as an example, that might be a landing page, might be sales training for accountants as an example, or sales training for HR teams, or whatever the industry might be. And a nice way to kind of structure these pages is you've got your kind of headline, and then it might be, are you struggling with lack of pipeline for your HR outfit or whatever that is? And then you might be facing these three common problems, like your sales team are scared to pick up the phone, or relying on cold email, or perhaps you're relying on referrals and word of mouth, and that's drying up your pipeline. And as a result, you're not hitting your revenue number, and this is the impact it's having on your organization. Then you introduce a couple features that directly hit these pain points. Then you layer that with some trust signals. So here's a customer review of how we solved this exact problem specifically. Here's a customer review video of, again, from a HR team that we really helped. Maybe you've got a bit of depth about your process. So how we attack this, we have a discovery call, then we have onboarding, then we do a 10-week program, and this is how we do it. maybe you weave in a YouTube video embed of the process, and then maybe at the bottom of the page, you've got some more social proof, some more results examples, and then an FAQ
Mm.
section. Really love FAQ sections on landing pages, but not generic ones like what is sales training. I want specific objection handlers that you get on sales calls. So, why are you guys so expensive? What's your refund policy? How long does it take to onboard? Why should I trust you compared to JB sales training? That stuff that you actually are getting asked on sales calls, because it will make your life easier. Folks will then inquire with you, book a demo, book a call, and they're already pre-qualified. It speeds up sales cycles because people
Mm.
see you as transparent and you're handling those really hard to tackle questions head on your website.
You begin your webpage breaking B2B. Is it B2B? Is breaking B2B correct?
Yeah, breakingb2b.com.
Breakingb2b.com. Go check that out. You begin your website with a video. It's the first
I
thing
do,
that I
yeah.
see. And I looked at some of the work that you've done for different organizations. That's not necessarily the case for all of them. Why a video at the top of your webpage?
You don't have to, right? That was like my site's not that old now. But mainly because I guess because I'm doing founder led sales, and we're scaling this up as we're approaching our year one monthly revenue target. So it was mainly just so I can make all about clarity, really. So as you can see, that the headline on my site, you'll see straight away, B2B SEO for revenue, not vanity. My video literally dives into those 3 pain points that I talked about when you asked me what we do. So are you struggling with this? Are you frustrated with this? Are you tired of this? And then just says how we attack it. And then just says, I think the video is only a minute or a minute 30. And then it says, if you're ready, book a call. If you're not, check out our podcast or check out the newsletter. And that's it. Just so folks that can't be bothered to read can watch the video.
And you
Um,
and you are a podcast fiend. You have maybe more content. You have 1.8 thousand followers on YouTube, which for a niche and what you do is incredible. I'm proud for you. I know you want to I know you want to grow a ton more, but podcasting is something you help organizations do. And obviously, we have the Sales Gravy podcast, so and we've been doing this for 18 years. But for people listening to this call and they're hesitant to get on a podcast or hesitant to do podcasting, what have you helped organizations really accelerate as far as content from the podcasting perspective?
Yeah, I mean, as products, SEO is our main offer along with websites. We do a little bit of podcasting more as the content engine for some of our B2B clients. But thinking of it, I mean, I suppose there's a few things you wanna think of. One is, have you got an exec on your team that's comfortable either in front of the mic or camera? Because not everyone wants to do it, right? Some people really prefer writing. They're great on LinkedIn posts or blog posts or similar, really good writings. So you need someone either on your exec team, your founder or a marketing leader or a sales leader, or whoever's relevant, that's actually comfortable either in front of a mic or a camera. But there's a few things like, I don't know if you guys were the same, Jeb, but when I started my podcast, like, I had no clue like 5 years ago when I started mine. So I'm no way near as much of a vet as you guys. But I literally just did it for fun. So just to interview sales leaders in my case out of my own greed, just to learn from them. So I had like your dad, Jeb Blount, and I had Brandon Bonanson, so a bunch of like well-known sales leaders like John Barrows. And then I interviewed a bunch of entrepreneurs purely because I sucked at selling. This was back in like 2020, 2019. And I just wanted to learn from them. Like, I'd heard them on their own shows, and I thought, I'm going to ask them all the questions I want to know so I can gain insights. And then eventually I thought, a year or so down the line, I better rebrand the podcast and actually tweak it so it can actually be useful to my business. So then I got a lot more confident because I went from shaking like crazy on camera, like really, really nervous, to gradually improving my communication skills and getting more confident. And then I thought I better turn this into a tool where I can actually like build awareness, drive brand, generate leads. So then I started doing solo episodes on websites and B2B marketing and SEO, and then also interviewing, using it almost as an account-based marketing tool. So interviewing famous folks in B2B and SaaS marketing, asking them how they're driving growth, making it really tactical, and also building relationships with them so they might send us referrals, generate us leads, and also likewise the audience tuning in. So I would say if you're going to use it as a business tool and you actually want to drive pipeline from it, then think about, do the opposite of what I did. Don't just mess around and see what happens. Like, think about how you're actually going to use it as a business tool. Is it to interview target prospects? Is it to do solo episodes and build authority? Is it to interview famous folks in your niche? Because there's a lot easier way a lot easier way is to just leverage other people's audience and just guest on other podcasts.
Oh yeah.
So there's a
Oh yeah.
brilliant website called Listen Notes. You can literally type in your niche, see the top rated podcasts, and just pitch those folks to go on their podcast. That's what I do quite a lot of as well. A
That's
really good way to
incredible.
just
That's a really cool tool. That's
really
awesome.
good, man. Like I think this year gone, I've probably guested on like getting close to 50, 100 podcasts just because I wanted to leverage their audience. And obviously, it builds up my LinkedIn following, gets me inbound leads, gets people to check the podcast. Like, it's a really good hack for anyone that maybe doesn't want to host their own show.
Well, going back to you and your business itself, you are you founder led, fairly niche in what you do for an organization and who you serve, but you built everything from the ground up. What were some mistakes that you wish you wouldn't have made leading up to the success you're having now?
Oh, tons. So many. Made so many mistakes. But I guess it's when you run a business, I feel you need to be extremely humble, although that's easier said than done. And I guess because I've got that sales and marketing background, I love to run experiments. So I don't mind that much if stuff doesn't work. Like, for example, I've tried different outbound agencies. This year alone, I've tried experiments around cold calling VPs of marketing, CMOs, cold calling experiments, different outbound experiments, paid media experiments. I've done a load. Podcast guesting was one of my experiments that worked well. So I try a lot of stuff. I go in with a hypothesis, and I think this probably makes sense because my ideal client's receptive to this channel. I think I'm going to give it a 3-month test. If we drive some impact from it, I qualified pipeline and revenue, great, let's carry it on. If not, I learn from it and I don't do it again. So I'm quite open to that kind of stuff. And I've even done stupid stuff like gone on the street and done man on the street interviews and just asked people like, do you know what SEO is? Or what do you think B2B stands for? And then publish that to LinkedIn and the YouTube. So I try all kinds of crazy stuff. Some works, a lot
How
of it doesn't.
how did that go? How did the man on the street stuff go? Was it just was it great
Uh,
content, but it didn't convert, or like what was the
it,
conclusion?
Yeah, I mean that stuff's never going to drive like leads straight away, right? It's more just top of funnel to build entertainment and education and make people laugh on LinkedIn, and then kind of more to make people think, oh, Sam's not necessarily just another run of the mill SEO guy or website guy. He's actually a bit different. So yeah, I was asking people like the funniest one I did, man, was one of the first I did last winter. I went up to this guy and said, what are your thoughts on cold calling? And he's like, it's illegal. It's illegal. I said, what do you mean it's illegal? He's like, I'm an ex-police officer. If you cold call me, like, I'm going to go mad. And he started yelling at me and like going crazy. It was so funny. Um, so yeah, like some of them have really taken off on LinkedIn because people like that unusual video content and stuff.
So it does work. It's just you have to think about how you're going to make it work, and I think that's important as well. Last insight from you is, I want to ask. You work with a lot of different clients. What are some misunderstandings that teams typically have that you maybe have to help them correct or give them insights to shape their thinking a bit differently about how they approach SEO websites and their online presence?
Oh, there's tons. I'll try and give a few quick ones. I mean, I suppose one is that folks think that SEO is a one and done, i.e., you can install a plugin on your website or you can write a page of content and that's it. I wish it was that easy, but it becomes more and more competitive all the time, especially if you've got a lot of competitors in your industry. It's getting tougher and tougher to rank well on Google and make organic search a sustainable way to drive
Mm.
sales pipeline. So it needs a solid strategy behind it. And what we talked about earlier is just one piece of the puzzle. Um, I suppose the other is that my website doesn't matter because all my work comes from word of mouth and referrals. Well, think about all the work you're missing because you don't know what you don't know. If someone's been recommended to your website, you don't know that yet. They might have landed on your website. And if your messaging's unclear, if they can't quickly see some results, proof of work, if they can't maybe check out your pricing, if you don't answer their questions, or if the design is horrible and it's really slow loading and it's difficult to navigate, then they're going to bounce off and go to a competitor. So it's not really a valid excuse. Those are a couple, but there's tons more.
I mean, those are the hardest hitting for me, and it's I've worked in the small business space myself, and in a local area selling things to them, and one of the challenges I've always found is there are people who just think that their website is a one and done. It's a put it up, I've got a place, and I can work from there. But you
Yeah.
go to websites, you find them, and you go, this isn't even real. Is this a real place? Are you sure? Like someone recommends to you a law office, for example, and you go to the law office's website, and it was clearly made, in 2009. The last update, you look at the LinkedIn profile of the head lawyer, and it's a 20-year-old picture, and their picture on LinkedIn is the updated, and they're not the same person anymore. You see those kinds of things. So take care of your
Yeah.
site. Sam, if people want to look more into doing this for themselves, and they want to accelerate their team, or they want to take a different approach, where can they find you, and where can they get consultation?
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's three main ways. One is check out my LinkedIn, Sam Dunning. I post daily tips, ideas, stories, and experiments on there. The second is the podcast, Breaking B2B. Like I say, we do interviews with marketing leaders. We also do solo episodes. Or the other one is, yeah, if you are feeling some of these pains, if you are frustrated that competitors are above you in Google organic search, stealing traffic or inbounds, or your website isn't converting a steady stream of inbound leads, then we might be able to help. You can book a call at breakingb2b.com.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for being here. Before we leave, y'all go check out salesgravy.com/live. Get your seats now. It's perfect for teams and for individuals. The website is salesgravy.com/live. If you have any questions, reach out to us there, and we'll be able to get you and your team all the answers they need. Sam, thank you for being on the podcast, and we appreciate you being here.
Cheers, man.
Awesome. We'll see you on the Sales Gravy podcast next time.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to click like and subscribe so you never miss a single video. And if you want more sales training content, go to learn.salesgravy.com.